You think sloths are slow and defenseless. You picture those chill little guys hanging upside down, barely moving, just vibing in the trees, maybe munching a leaf or two. You imagine them as the ultimate picture of peaceful, sleepy, harmless existence. And yeah, for the sloths we have today, that's pretty accurate. They're basically fluffy arboreal potatoes. But what if I told you that less than 10,000 years ago, there was a sloth, a real sloth, that wasn't just big, it was a walking, breathing, snarling mountain of muscle and claws, capable of facing down the fiercest predators on the planet and winning. Yeah, no, I'm not making this up. It's not some kind of ancient, forgotten urban legend. It was real.
It was called Megatherium, and it makes every modern sloth look like a cute, fuzzy, easily squishable house cat. Think about it for a second. Our modern sloths, they weigh maybe 10, 15 pounds tops. They're basically snacks for anything with teeth and a bad attitude. They're built for camouflage and extreme slowness, not for brawling. Now, mentally throw that image into a blender and pour out something that stands taller than a giraffe and weighs as much as 4 rhinos. That's Megatherium. This wasn't just a big animal, it was an event. It was a 6-meter-tall behemoth, a shaggy, muscle-bound tank, and frankly, the kind of creature that would make even a Tyrannosaurus Rex think twice before messing with it.
I mean, the sheer scale of this thing is almost impossible to comprehend. When it stood up on its hind legs, using its massive tail as a sort of fleshy, muscular tripod, it could easily reach 6 meters, which is like 20 feet. That's taller than a modern elephant, taller than the ceiling of most houses. This wasn't just a tall creature, it was a living tower of pure, unadulterated primal power. And the weight? Oh, the weight. We're talking up to 4 metric tons, sometimes even 5 for the really beefy individuals. That's 8,000 to 10,000 pounds. Imagine that for a second. That's like taking a small truck, turning it into an animal, covering it in coarse, shaggy fur, and giving it the nastiest claws you've ever seen.
Simply put, this was not a slow animal in the sense of being weak. This was a slow animal in the sense that it moved with the gravitas of a collapsing building. It was a walking, breathing, leafy mountain. And those claws, oh man, the claws. Modern sloths have little hook claws, perfect for gripping branches, not exactly built for inflicting damage. Megatherium? Its claws were over 30 centimeters long, a foot of pure, curved, sharpened keratin. These weren't just for show, these were weapons. They were like the ultimate utility tool, capable of stripping bark, digging for roots, and, as we'll get to, absolutely gutting anything foolish enough to get in its way. Picture those things attached to arms that were thicker and more muscular than a professional bodybuilder's thighs.
Its bones were in some delicate bird-like structure. They were dense, thick, and heavy, like those of an elephant, giving it an incredibly robust frame that could absorb immense punishment. This thing was built like a brick outhouse, designed for impact, designed for survival, designed for crushing whatever it needed to crush. It was an absolute unit, a peak performance ancient beast, a true living fossil marvel. Early paleontologists, when they first started unearthing these colossal bones, they were utterly bewildered. They had no frame of reference. Some initially thought these giant claw bones belonged to some sort of ancient lion or a massive carnivore, purely based on their size and sharpness.
It took a while, a lot of careful study, and connecting the dots with the smaller, more familiar sloth anatomy to realize they were looking at the remains of a truly monstrous sloth. It was a complete paradigm shift, a moment when science basically said, wait, what? They had to rethink everything they thought they knew about sloths, about herbivores, about the sheer scale of life that once walked the earth. For years, people just couldn't wrap their heads around the idea that a sloth could be this gigantic, this formidable, this utterly terrifying. So how did this colossal creature actually live its life? Megatherium was an herbivore, make no mistake. It wasn't out there stalking prey or ambushing unwary travelers.
Its diet consisted mostly of leaves, twigs, and branches from trees, often high up. This is where its immense size and those powerful arms really came into play. Imagine a tree, a tall one, reaching for the sky. A modern sloth might get to a few low branches, maybe. Megatherium would simply stand up on its hind legs, reaching those incredibly long arms up into the canopy, grabbing entire branches, snapping them off like twigs, and pulling them down to its massive mouth. Its tail, thick and incredibly strong, acted as that crucial third leg, forming a stable tripod with its powerful hind limbs. This allowed it to achieve incredible height, giving it access to food sources that no other herbivore could reach.
It was a master browser, effectively creating its own buffet line wherever it went. It didn't just eat, it harvested. It processed an incredible volume of plant matter day in and day out, fueled by a slow but incredibly efficient digestive system that allowed it to extract every last bit of nutrition from tough, fibrous vegetation. The sheer volume of food it must have consumed daily is staggering. Imagine a whole forest slowly disappearing as one of these giants moved through it. It also had a very robust chewing apparatus. Its jaw was deep, its teeth were large and peg-like, perfectly suited for grinding down tough plant material, not for slicing meat. Its tongue was likely long and prehensile, perfect for stripping leaves off branches.
Its whole head, though relatively small compared to its body, was a powerful, specialized feeding machine. And when it wasn't standing tall, it lumbered around on all fours, its weight distributed over 4 massive feet, each one ending in those terrifying claws, which it often curled under itself to protect their sharpness, using the blunt sides of its knuckles to walk. This gave it a somewhat shuffling, ponderous gait, but don't let that fool you. Every step was deliberate, every movement carried the momentum of a small landslide. But if it was an herbivore, a leaf eater, just going about its business, munching on trees and generally being a giant, slow-moving vegetarian tank, why did it need such absurdly massive weapons? Why the foot-long claws?
Why the arms that could probably bench press a car? This is where the story gets really interesting and, frankly, a little terrifying. This is where you realize Megatherium was not just an herbivore, it was an armored fortress with a bad temper. Those claws, those arms, they weren't just for pulling down branches, they were for defense, pure, unadulterated, primal defense. Megatherium lived during the Pleistocene epoch, a time when North and South America were teeming with some of the most fearsome predators the world has ever seen. We're talking about apex hunters like the Smilodon fatalis, the infamous saber-toothed cat, a creature built for ambush and dispatching large prey with its dagger-like canines. We're talking about dire wolves, larger and more powerful than their modern cousins, hunting in coordinated packs. We're talking about even bigger short-faced bears, grizzly bears on steroids, truly gigantic carnivores that viewed almost everything else as a potential meal. These weren't small, timid predators. They were heavy hitters, masters of their craft, and they were constantly looking for the next big score. Imagine a scene, a lone Smilodon, hungry, patient, probably following the scent of Megatherium for hours. It sees this colossal, shaggy form, maybe grazing peacefully. It assesses the situation, its primal brain doing a quick risk-reward calculation. Normally, a Smilodon would target the neck, going for a quick, brutal kill.
But try to imagine a Smilodon jumping onto the back of a Megatherium. It's like trying to jump onto a moving apartment building. The sheer mass, the thick, shaggy fur providing some protection, the low center of gravity when it's on all fours. Even if it managed to get a bite, the Megatherium's bones were so thick, its musculature so dense, that a single bite from a saber-tooth might not even be fatal. It would just be an annoyance, a really painful annoyance. And if the Smilodon did attack, if it committed to the charge, what would happen next? Megatherium wouldn't just stand there and take it. It would rear up, that colossal frame suddenly looming even larger, casting a terrifying shadow. It would stand on its hind legs, those massive claws now fully deployed, each one a foot of razor-sharp bone. It would swing those tree trunk arms, delivering blows with the force of a battering ram. A single swipe from a Megatherium could disembowel a Smilodon, crush its skull, or simply send it flying like a rag doll. The force generated by those swinging arms, propelled by tons of muscle, would be absolutely devastating. A Smilodon attacking alone, thinking it could take down this walking fortress? Yeah, that Smilodon probably wouldn't survive. It would be a very short, very brutal lesson in don't mess with the giant sloth. This wasn't just defense, it was overwhelming retaliation.
Even a pack of dire wolves with their numbers and coordinated attacks would have a significant challenge. They might try to nip at its legs, try to wear it down, but Megatherium's skin was incredibly tough, often leathery, and beneath that, a dense layer of subcutaneous bone, little bony plates embedded in its skin called osteoderms, which essentially made it armor-plated. You'd have to get through that tough hide, that dense fur, and then those bony plates just to get to muscle. It was essentially wearing natural chainmail, and any wolf that got too close, that risked a lunge, would be met with a furious sweeping claw. The ground would shake with its roars, a deep guttural sound that would echo through the ancient forests and grasslands, a sound of pure defiance.
This was a beast that could stand its ground, that could fight back with terrifying efficiency, a true champion of the Ice Age megafauna. It was a beast that knew its own strength and wasn't afraid to use it. It was, in essence, a living nope rope with giant claws, ready to deliver a fast and furious beatdown to anything that decided it looked like dinner. So this absolute beast, this incredibly successful animal that had perfected the art of being a giant, armored, clawed herbivore, survived for millions of years. It outlasted countless generations of predators. It weathered numerous climate shifts, adapting to different environments, expanding its range across South America and even into parts of North America. It faced down all the natural challenges the world could throw at it.
It was a true survivor, an evolutionary masterpiece of sheer scale and defensive capability. But then, about 10,000 years ago, roughly at the end of the last ice age, something happened. Megatherium, along with so much of the Pleistocene megafauna, the mammoths, the saber-toothed cats, the dire wolves, the short-faced bears, they vanished, gone, extinct, forever. The big question, the one that still haunts paleontologists and conservationists, is why? How could something so perfectly adapted, so powerful, just disappear? There are a few leading hypotheses, and honestly, it's probably a brutal combination of them all, a perfect storm that even a creature as formidable as Megatherium couldn't withstand.
The first major suspect, as always when we talk about megafaunal extinctions at this particular time, is climate change. The end of the last ice age wasn't just a gradual warming, it was a period of intense environmental upheaval. Massive ice sheets retreated, sea levels rose dramatically, and crucial ecosystems changed rapidly. Grasslands became forests, or vice versa, over relatively short geological timescales. For a creature like Megatherium, which relied on specific types of vegetation and a vast range to support its enormous appetite, these shifts could have been devastating. A sudden reduction in its preferred food sources, a fragmentation of its habitat, could have slowly but surely starved the population, leading to a decline that it couldn't recover from.
Animals, especially big ones, often specialize in their diets, and if that diet literally disappears or becomes scarce, then so do they. It's a brutal reality of the natural world. But here's the kicker, the really uncomfortable part of the story. Us, humans, Homo sapiens. As the glaciers retreated, as the world warmed, human populations were expanding, particularly into the Americas. These early humans, arriving on a continent full of animals that had never encountered such a clever, adaptable, and deadly predator, were essentially a brand new variable. Imagine Megatherium used to fending off individual predators or even small packs, creatures that relied on brute force or ambush. Now imagine a small group of highly intelligent, tool-wielding, coordinated hunters.
Humans didn't need to be bigger or stronger than a Megatherium, they just needed to be smarter. They could set traps, use spears from a distance, exploit the animal's relative slowness, or target the young. They could track, wear down, and eventually, if desperate enough, kill even a beast of this magnitude. The evidence for human impact is debated, of course. Some argue that human populations weren't large enough or advanced enough to cause such a widespread extinction event. Others point to archaeological sites where megafauna remains, including those of giant ground sloths, are found alongside human tools, showing a clear interaction.
The overkill hypothesis suggests that humans, with their efficient hunting techniques and rapid expansion, simply hunted these large, slow-breeding animals to extinction. It's a compelling, if deeply saddening, theory. Think about it. Megatherium had survived for millions of years. It had endured ice ages, interglacial periods, shifting continents, evolving predators. It had faced down Smilodon, dire wolves, and every other monstrous carnivore that dared to challenge it. It was a living, breathing testament to resilience and brute strength. It was the ultimate survivor, a creature that could outfight, outlast, and outmuscle anything else in its environment.
But it had never, not once in its entire evolutionary history, encountered a predator that could coordinate, that could plan, that could innovate, that could throw spears from a distance or drive an entire herd off a cliff. The only predator it never faced before, the one it couldn't adapt to, the one it couldn't simply swat away with a giant claw, was us. And that, my friends, is a truly chilling thought. It's a stark reminder of our own power, for good and for ill, and the profound impact we've had and continue to have on this planet's biodiversity. It's just wild, right? A sloth, a massive, terrifying, tank-like sloth that roamed ancient Earth like a furry, clawed kaiju. It puts a whole new spin on the word slow, turning it from a weakness into a statement of unyielding power. Next time you see a picture of a cute, sleepy little modern sloth,
Take a moment to remember its terrifying ancestor, the one that could look a saber-toothed tiger in the eye and say, "Nope, not today, Chief." If you found this deep dive into the absolute unit that was Megatherium as mind-blowing as I did, do me a solid and smash that like button. Seriously, it helps the channel out a ton. And if you want to keep exploring the incredible, often terrifying, lost worlds of ancient Earth with me, then hit subscribe and ring that notification bell so you don't miss out on any future creature features. Thanks for watching, and until next time on The Lost World.